Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Transgender people are too loud. There are just too many trans people in video games these days. Everywhere I turn, a character comes out as trans and I can't take it anymore. Is what I would say if I was a bitch-ass loser. There really aren't that many cases of trans characters and stories within video games, which is sad. But the few that we do have are wildly different in their approach to representing or telling the stories of trans characters. Some video games go for the obvious route and they have their character look at the camera and go, "Hello, I'm trans," while others approach their identities with more subtlety. Symbolic clues here and there, a coded dialogue sprinkled in, and a mischievous use of pink, blue, and white. Both tactics have their strengths and weaknesses. But during a time when trans people are actively being used as scapegoats for bigotry reasons, being constantly dehumanized by the media, and having their rights to be who they are taken away, we as a society, bro, we need to see trans people existing now more than ever. So with that in mind, is subtlety no longer good enough? Do we need to be louder than ever in all cases of modern day trans representation in video games? Which is the best approach, and which modern day video games are actively leading the charge? Well, that is why we are here today, so get comfortable and let's talk about beautiful, beautiful trans people in video games. Hello, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is E, as in I will be the judge, jury, and executioner in today's video on how trans people should be portrayed in video games. A word of caution, my friend. My opinions are always right and dare not be questioned. That's a joke, of course. One who is without flaws is a liar unto themselves. Heat. Those looky bars. Anyways, this video would have been improbable without you, amazing, gorgeous rats, who filled out my Google form asking about your favorite trans video game characters. Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to fill out this form. Super awesome, super slice, super But if you're feeling FOMO because you weren't able to fill out this form, worry not, you could still be part of the next video. The same form is still out asking you all about your favorite queer characters in indie video games. So the link is in the description if you want a piece of that. Before we get right into it, we are going to be asking for a like and maybe even a little subscribe while you're down there. Ew! No, but I'm being for real because it really helps out this channel and it helps us get even gayer, if that was even possible. Speaking of which, also happy Pride Month. This is going to be our second video for Pride Month. Third video will be coming out not in June, and you're going to mind your business about that. Thanks. And also, thank you so much to our amazing coffee members in advance, and let's get started. Hi, I'm a cat, obviously, and I have goals, aspirations, and dreams like any other feline. I want to sleep, eat some tuna, watch a bird for 5 hours straight, and then sleep again. But I also want to blog my day-to-day luxurious life. And I can do that very easily with today's sponsor, Squarespace. Have you ever wanted to be a blogger? A teacher, perhaps, teaching your own courses? Or you've always wanted to sell your own products? Then Squarespace is the place for you. Building a website has never been so easy. With Squarespace's Fluid Engine, you're able to drag and drop images onto and off of your site. You can adjust headers, design pages, add links, and specific color schemes all within seconds. I mean, I don't have thumbs, and I can still do it. If you wish to blog like I do, you can schedule posts using Squarespace's in-house tools to share your posts with any and everyone. If you want to sell products, whether those be physical, digital, or service, Squarespace makes it easier than ever to get your business on its feet. For new posts, new products dropping, or new sales, Squarespace helps you gather subscribers' emails so you can run your very own email campaigns in order to strengthen your connections. Sign up for Squarespace today using my link in the description down below in order to save 10% off your very first purchase of a website or a domain. And make sure to use my code EISSOCIAL. Make your website perfect today. I had to do that pun. It wouldn't make sense if I didn't. Well, I've got to go take a nap and also push over my owner's $500 Goku statue because I think it's gonna be funny. Bye. So first, we're going to talk about Bridget from the Guilty Gear franchise. Bridget is first because she's going to be our very first example of super obvious, overt storytelling. So Guilty Gear Strive, which is one of the games in the franchise, is a fighting game that lets you fight, obviously, with a huge range of characters. I was super unfamiliar with this game prior to this video, yet I could still recognize Bridget if I saw her out in the wild, which either shows her immense popularity or my ability to accurately keep my finger on the pulse of the internet. Don't like how I said that. Bridget's story is that she was born as a twin in a village that believed twin sons brought disaster and ruin. So much so that one of the twins would be killed at birth to avoid a family's downfall. In an attempt to save their child and perchance their own asses, Bridget's parents decided to cover up the fact that Bridget was born a boy, and such raised her as a girl instead. Bridget went on to live and grow up as a girl, until she revealed that she was born a boy this whole time. And since her family was still alive and well, it really helped to clear the village's dangerous superstitions. Like, that is crazy. But Bridget continued to dress very femininely. She at one point tried to be a boy or dress more masculine, and it just didn't feel right. So we typically always see Bridget like this. Very feminine, very cute, and a lot of fans assume that she is a woman at first glance. And in the beginning of Guilty Gear telling Bridget's story, she did continue to be called he and him, and she still continued to identify as male. And the fans were very normal about it. Joking. This led to the fans' very distasteful use of the term trap to be used for her. If you don't know, trap is a very gross word for very feminine looking characters that turn out to have male genitals, thus trapping heterosexual men into being attracted to them, only to then turn it on them and like, haha, got you. Oh no, you've liked a guy this whole time. You are gay. Anyways, that was the case until this cutscene here for Bridget's story was created. Here you see her grappling with how she wants to identify as. She says how she doesn't want to run scared anymore. No more faking it like this, or she'll regret it if she doesn't do this, and that she is done lying to herself. Gold Lewis Dickinson, period on that name, sir. Another character in the scene goes,
"Don't mention it. Happy trails, cowgirl," or cowboy.
She then very proudly goes,
"Cowgirl is fine because I'm a girl."
So even though she was raised as a girl in order to protect her, she soon found out that that was who she was all along. It's a very beautiful scene to see her work through these feelings with the two other characters in the scene. This goes to show how important your close circle of support can be and how much friends and companions can help. She questioned, she explored, and she came to her own conclusion. Though it is a good thing to note, and someone in the Google forum did point this out, that it's kind of a distasteful like trope where stories will have parents make their kids act like a different gender for whatever reason, and then the kid like is like, oh, I have been this gender this whole time, and then people are like, oh, you're transing your kids, you know, like it kind of adds to that fuel. But like we actively see her ponder, question, and come to her own conclusion, and I think that's pretty cool. And it's really gorgeous. But because the game is inherently a fighting game, lore for the characters is like not at the forefront, and it's not like the big selling point of the game. So arguably people could miss this or not play this route or chapter that reveals this very important moment of identity forming within Bridget. Due to this kind of, people still to this day don't believe it. They still think that she's a cross-dresser, or that the English translation of the game is incorrect and Bridget never said it like that, whatever, so on and so forth. But to make it abundantly clear, the creator came out in a blog post and said that Bridget is a trans woman. Quote, after the events of Bridget's story in arcade mode, she self-identifies as a woman. So, as to whether he or she would be the correct pronoun for Bridget, the answer would be she. So Bridget is a very interesting example of a character being very obviously trans. This is not subtle storytelling. She basically comes out and says, no, I don't want to go by cowboy. Cowgirl's great because I'm a girl. Like, she says it, you know, like it's obvious. Though inherently as a game, you could miss this lore as any other lore in a game that like doesn't make lore super important, but it is still pretty obvious. And somehow by transphobes, it was still ignored, dismissed, or coped into a transphobic understanding. Trans people though felt very seen by her character and absolutely adore her. Bridget is a highly loved character in trans video game circles. So even though Bridget is one of the most obvious depictions that we will be talking about today, she was still somehow overlooked by some people. So what does that mean for the fate of the subtle examples? This is me not so subtly transitioning us to the next section, and also I'm hinting that all of this will be answered at the end of the video. I don't know. This is an exploratory video essay. I'm writing and researching as I go. This is a journey we are taking together. Yeah. We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3. If you are a loyal rat in our sewer, then you may know that if I have an opportunity to talk about Baldur's Gate 3, I will find a way. So Baldur's Gate 3 already is a pretty darn inclusive game. Baldur's Gate 3 is an RPG, turn-based, based on D&D. It's amazing. Go play it. That's all you need to know. And it's also a really inclusive game. And the same can be said for their character creator, which I'm going to highlight real fast because it's part of the convo. So unlike other RPGs, when creating your character, you are able to choose your own pronouns, your body type, your voice type, and genital type all differently. This normally doesn't happen, and as I understand, hasn't happened in a huge AAA game like this before. So that's already hype as hell. But as for canon trans characters is kind of where we lose some steam. The only trans character we meet and talk to is Nocturne, a tiefling Shadowheart, who is a companion character, was close with while growing up together. Nocturne is an example for today's video of extreme subtle storytelling, but in the sense of it being almost buried. You are unlikely to meet Nocturne, it's not guaranteed, and she isn't a required quest or character. And due to this game having hundreds of hours in content, she is one of many that will be inevitably missed. When you do meet her, you can find her journal nearby that says, "I am Nocturne. I think as her. I see her when I look in the mirror. I can't remember the last time someone called me by the wrong name." Shadowheart has been swift to gently correct slips of the tongue, and even swifter in challenging those who'd use my forsworn name in malice. I'm lucky to have her as a friend. Shadowheart, upon regaining memories, will mention growing up with a purple tiefling boy and will kind of recognize Nocturne as that kid, but with a different name. Nocturne says that Shadowheart was the one that encouraged her to be herself, who helped her realize that she was unhappy who she was, and that they survived this cult together. So yes, Nocturne is a trans woman, which on one hand is great, let's go. But on the other hand, damn, why was the bitch hiding? It is truly beautiful how rich this small character story is, honestly. Like a few sentences and notes here and there, and a pretty vast history of a person is just like understood. Like I just think that's really good storytelling. She says how she had to handle some of the people that tried to attack her for her new identity, with Shadowheart, that's her shortened name, also punching their lights out if they dead named her. She shares her fears of being unable to leave Lady Shar, the cult they're in, long story, and says that maybe she'll find the courage one day. It's so few words, but Nocturne is still somehow so alive, and somehow better trans rep than some characters with like oodles amount of screen time. But it's a bit bittersweet and a little disappointing. Like this is such a small niche depiction. Does it even count? It's not subtle in the way that you have to be IQ 1,000 to figure it out, but it's subtle in the fact that it feels buried. So for its place in this video, it's going to ask the question, does it even count as good representation? Tell Me Why was the first major studio game to have a playable transgender lead character. As this glad.org article on the game very clearly states, the game came out in 2020 and was made by Don't Nod, the same people behind Life is Strange. So people were pretty excited for when this game came out. It follows twins Allison and Tyler Ronan, who are reunited after 10 years of being apart due to some very violent circumstances around the death of their mother, T. I'll just say that. They return to the home and the town that they grew up in, trying to sell that home, end up running into memories and the past. Like literally. Like the game is a little supernatural, okay? The twins are psychic and have like twin telepathy, and they counter their past very literally and tangibly, and they work through themes of grief, abuse, and mental health struggles, and that's on period. What is so cool and why this game is in this video is because Tyler is a trans man, and as I mentioned earlier, was the very first playable trans character from a major studio. Don't Nod, when creating this game, seemed to be keenly aware of the weight this game could have on others and took great lengths to be as informed as possible to make sure that they tell Tyler's story in a respectful way. And I really mean, like, they seemed very, very aware of the topic at hand and how poorly it can be handled. They even have an FAQ on their game's website that asks the question of how trans people were involved in Tyler's creation and story. You can pause here to read the entire response, but in summary, they state that they had 2 people on the spectrum advising them at all times. I'm so sorry. It's honestly kind of giving Sia tweet, but genuinely a lot more respectful and thorough. They say that they had trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming staff advising them at all times. And they had 2 consultants from GLAAD that worked with the game for 2 years, and Tyler's voice actor, August Black, who is also a trans man, was very collaborative on Tyler's story and script. As Haley McKay writes in her review on Tell Me Why, quote, "So many trans characters in popular narratives are rooted in trauma and pain. They're abused, or they're dead-named, or misgendered repeatedly. More often than not, their desire to transition is shown as being the cause of some kind of childhood trauma. Transitioning in the lives of trans characters are always depicted as a tragedy in 3 acts. But Tyler and the narrative surrounding him are different. Tyler is never dead-named, only ever referred to as Tyler or his previous mask name, Ollie. And he's never misgendered. And while violence does happen, it's not his origin story, nor is it a common occurrence. His past isn't rooted in trauma. He's not a punching bag for the game's cheap thrills, masked as acceptance. All in all, Tyler feels like a breath of fresh air. Though not everyone agrees with this sentiment. Vice writer Dia Listina, in their piece on Tell Me Why, states how the entire method of storytelling felt insecure, saying, quote, "The representation in Tell Me Why also comes across as too practiced, almost unctuous. I have no doubt that this comes from a sincere desire to get it right. Just like the overly eager FAQ they released promising no one gets hurt, and they followed all the right steps. Because it does. It hits every checkmark, as though the developers were quietly lurking through years of discourse, compiling data to produce the correct result. It feels desperate for approval, for someone to say, this is how you tell a trans man story correctly." Now, do I agree with that last sentiment? Seems a little harsh, but we do have to question if that is good or bad. So where this game stands in the lens of our video today is one of overt, loud representation. There is a lot more to this game, like matricide, for one, LOL, than Tyler's identity. But at the same time, the game doesn't seem like it's scared to be too much in your face about it. It is not the end-all be-all to Tyler as a person, as it shouldn't be, but it's also not like hidden in the source code that viewers struggle to even find. But just because Tyler's identity is shown in this way, does that automatically make a good representation? As Dia Lisina mentioned in their Vice article, is this a bland, safe, calculated attempt, desperate for approval? So, Apex Legends is a video game. Bet you didn't see that one coming. It is a battle royale hero shooter game that has a wide range of playable characters to choose from in order to slaughter your opponents and be the last team standing. 2 of those characters happen to be extra-based and genderqueer: Catalyst and Bloodhound. Catalyst being a trans woman and Bloodhound being non-binary. And Bloodhound is voiced by Allegra Clark. Yeah! For this section though in the video, we will be focusing on Catalyst, but just know that this game also has an NB baddie. So each legend has lore and a pretty cool backstory, with Catalyst being no different. Her real name is Tressa Crystal Smith, and she grew up on a dying planet with a dying moon that corpos were extracting from and profiting off of. She was part of a group of misfits that spent their time on moon rituals, witchery shenanigans, and crystal readings, and were there for her during her transition. In her trailer, we see these friends and we meet her closest friend, Margot, who asks Catalyst to help sabotage the Bad Moon Killing Corporation thing, okay? It gets crazy, okay? Miss Thing blows herself in the compound up a little bit and I think she dies. LOL. Catalyst is like traumatized, obviously. From there, Catalyst joins terraforming crews to protect the moon and learns to work with like ferrofluid, moon juice perchance. And she learns to be a hero and then gets swept into the Apex games. She's a defensive character and is still like a pretty good unit to this day according to like this Reddit post and like my god sister who mains her. Shout out to my god sister. I know you're not watching. Some e-lore to everybody, but my god sister is basically a sister to me, and I just found out that she just subscribed to me like a week ago. Anyways, Catalyst manipulates the ferrofluid in a witchy way, and she's associated with witch-like imagery and is so she's so Catalyst is an example of pretty clear and overt trans representation. In her trailer, Catalyst and her friend Margot sit together, and Catalyst says how the whole world feels like it opened up now that she is herself. Margot then reads her palm and lists out the traits that she sees, like creativity, compassion, and leadership. Catalyst questions the leadership part, and Margot states how strong Catalyst is and how much she's already gone through. Catalyst responds by saying,
"Transitioning. That was sort of hard."
She also has some voice lines in-game that mention her trans identity, where she says,
"I am the grim trans witch your parents warned you about."
And she references a meme within trans femme communities where she says,
"If you can't produce your own liquid metals, store-bought is fine."
Instead of liquid metals, the joke is usually estrogen, so period. From my research, and though I don't play the game, which may change because I really like her, these seem to be the only moments when she overtly talks about her transition. And though it seems few, it is in places that are super hard to miss. It's in her announcement trailer and in her in-game voice lines. If you even look into her for a second, you will find out that she is trans. It is not subtle, and it's not supposed to be subtle. Some argue maybe she is too obvious with it and too loud. The transitioning mentioned in her trailer felt forced to some, while others were like, yeah, trans people, let's go. Again, we keep Catalyst in mind as we continue with our examples. This game is so fun. I hate it so much. I started playing Celeste for this video and it's a great time. So if you do not know, you play as Madeline in this tight platformer and you climb Mount Celeste, journeying through self-discovery and self-love. So like most games on this list, I have to rely on research to accurately portray the contents of this game because, well, the story only unfolds as you progress. And well, if you suck ass, then you won't be figuring out. So I'm doing the best I can. So the reason why Madeline is in this list is because she is a trans woman. I am on chapter 3 as I write this. There are 8 total, and so far I've only learned that Madeline has anxiety and perchance depression, so real. And she promised herself that she would climb this damn mountain and that she was done with breaking promises to herself. So far it has not been mentioned at all that she is trans. And after researching for this video, I found out that the game actually never mentions her trans identity at all. In fact, Madeline was revealed as a trans woman not ever in the game, through subtle coding or otherwise, but this was revealed in a Medium blog post by the game's creator, Maddie Thorson, who titled this piece, "Is Madeline Canonically Trans?" And in the opening, Maddie states, quote, "Well, yeah, of course she is. This feels painfully obvious to a lot of, mostly trans, people. And likewise, it feels painfully obvious to me too, in retrospect." Maddie continues to say how, at the time of Celeste's creation, she had no idea she was trans, and unknowingly wrote Madeline with heavy amounts of trans coding. Maddie was basing Madeline a lot on herself and her own identity struggles and mental health issues. So of course this would be translated to the character that takes after her. Maddie wrote, quote, "When I wrote Celeste, I sincerely still believed that I was cisgender, but I was nevertheless waist deep in gender feelings, among other anxieties. When Madeline looks in the mirror and sees her other self, when she attempts to abandon her reflection, who then drags her down the mountain, when the two reconcile and merge to become stronger and more complete. That was all unknowingly written from a trans perspective. In the DLC of the game, Farewell, it is more or less confirmed in-game there as well, where we see a trans flag next to Madeline's computer screen. Though during Farewell's creation, Maddie was only just then having a hunch about her gender identity. When it comes to this video and showing examples of subtle or overt trans representation, I think Celeste accidentally takes the cake for being the most subtle example. Madeline's transness is never said in game and only hinted at with a flag in the DLC. It is the definition of subtle, mostly because the creator even didn't know that she was cooking this hard. But some criticize this as hiding her identity so that cis people can play. Maddie said how others thought it was like a J.K. Rowling type of retcon. And other people, like this commenter on Maddie's blog post, said how it shouldn't even matter and be up for discussion. Maddie herself said in her post that she felt like she was outing Madeline in a way. Even though she is fictional, Maddie wouldn't want a blog post written about how she is trans by someone else. And it felt weird doing it to her own character. This game is so beautiful on so many levels, and I love how its inclusion in this video just adds a lot more to the discussion. It continues to make us ask if this level of subtlety is still good representation. Mizuki from the game Hatsune Miku, Colorful Stage, or also known as Project Sekai as the OG Japanese name, is undoubtedly the #1 most requested character that you all asked me to cover in the Google form. And good, because I've been meaning to talk about her for a second. Also, shout out to my editor Kelpie. This section is dedicated to you, okay? Kelp loves this game, so everyone say dub Kelpie in the comments. Thank you very much. So before I begin with Mizuki, I will say that it is not like 100% confirmed that she is a trans character by neither the game's creators nor any explicit in-game information. Technically, she isn't confirmed, but she is. Like, we're gonna be talking about it, but like she is. Anyways, Project Sekai is a rhythm game with visual novel and gacha components. Mizuki is a character whose lore got expanded upon during her story event that fans call Mizu 5. Please note that this event has only been published in Japanese servers and it has not been published in North American servers, I believe, so it's not technically officially in English yet. So I've had to translate it with my amazing bestie who speaks Japanese fluently, so don't worry, we've got it covered, okay? This event is where this famous image of Mizuki freaking out comes from. But why was she freaking out? Mizuki is widely speculated to be trans femme due to a lot of different reasons. The official website lists Mizuki's gender as unknown because Japanese, the original language of the game, is a language that can easily be non-gendered and allows some wiggle room for the devs to be vague about her gender. Though since English is very gendered inherently as a language, the English translation refers to her using they them and she her. Mizuki herself uses the personal pronoun of boku, which is a pronoun usually used by young boys, but it doesn't always correlate directly with gender. As I mentioned earlier, my senior advisor and bestie, the Son Pilot on Twitter, is fluent in Japanese and has informed me that girls also use boku to be cutesy, the same way that men might use watashi, a pronoun usually used by women, so they can sound a little bit more formal. I saw some debate of people like, okay, but she uses boku though, so that means she's a boy. I just wanted to clear that up. Shut the fuck up. So Mizuki is shown to have worn boyish clothes and presented very masked when in middle school, with her bedroom shown dark, blue, and dismal, with her mirror covered, maybe implying that she was dealing with gender dysphoria at the time. But in high school, when she starts dressing very femininely through the encouragement of her sister, her bedroom is shown as bright, pink, and the mirror finally being uncovered, implying that she's more comfortable with her reflection now. Some boy bullies question like why she's dressed like that when she like isn't dressed super eccentric, so it's weird to ask a believed to be cis girl why she's dressed like a girl. So that leads people to believe that she presented more masc when she was younger, which we see with flashback photos. And these bullies might be wondering why she's so feminine now. She also covers a song called Villain by Teniwa that has lyrics saying, "I'm sure we freaked them out just by holding hands. You're reported when you opt out of the rat race. I'm not a mutant, I'm just me, whether that's X or Y." I mean, that's pretty obvious. You know, freak them out by holding hands. That's very obviously talking about queer relationships or queer identities. Reported for opting out of the rat race, or also known as societal expectations of anything like sexuality and gender, right? Okay, you're reported for it. Yeah. I'm not a mutant, I'm just me, whether that's X or Y, is pretty heavily implying a transgender interpretation of that line. The word mutant could be used by transphobes to talk about the unnaturalness of trans people. And of course, X and Y referring to the chromosomes that can dictate the sex someone is born as. So sex is a lot more complicated than that, but yes, that's probably what it's referring to. So they chose Mizuki for this song to cover. Like, this song is pretty obvious. All of that, to be honest, would solidify her trans coding to me, okay? This all seems like the coding is present and accounted for. But it wasn't until her story event that made this speculation a widespread interpretation. Mizuki has been referring to a secret she has that she is scared to tell her friends. And Enna, one of her friends, is very curious and concerned for how this secret is weighing on Mizuki. On the rooftop one afternoon, 3 boys are talking to Enna. The boys aren't shown, but it can be inferred that these are like the bullies that Mizuki has to like put up with constantly. One of the boys asks Enna if she is friends with Mizuki, and Enna says yes. And then the boy in response says, "Does that mean you're also a guy?" In this moment, the atmosphere shifts immediately. The music stops.
へえ、そうなんだ。あ、じゃあ、君も男だったりする感じ？
This isn't a lighthearted moment that could be seen as like simple teasing or like a joke or like not that big of a deal. The music stops. I only ever saw screenshots of the scene before, so I finally actually watched it this time, and I literally got chills when he asks that and the music stops. That's important storytelling. That tells the audience, oh, that was big. That was a huge drop just there. His friends panic and says that he can't say that. Classmate A is like, how does Enna not know after being friends with Mizuki for so long? And Enna is frozen and slowly works out that this must have been the big secret Mizuki was hiding. Mizuki then shows herself to everyone, having presumably heard what was just said, and she looks at Enna like this, with Enna looking back. Look at that face, girl. Mizuki then runs off crying. The reaction to the story update was mixed. A lot of people accepted this as confirmation that she is trans, and a lot of others still cope and say that she's still a boy and is a cross-dresser, and that's what she was just outed as. She was just outed as a cross-dresser, which is like insane levels of cope or stupidity. Take your pick. Someone just said that she's really a boy. The music cut off and Mizuki reacts like this. That's not a reaction to, oh no, they found out I'm just like, I'm a cross-dresser. No, this is, no, you outed me. Like, it's a moment that some people can relate to, and it's terrifying. It is dangerous for trans people. And outing this secret to her friends is just taking the autonomy away from Mizuki. It's a very heavy scene. So this is very obviously insinuating that she is trans. Like, girl, come on. That's what the devs are going for, okay? But as opposed to Celeste, that had no confirmation until the creator spoke out, Mizuki has not been confirmed trans by the devs, and only this coding and subtle text and implication is included. So if Celeste was maybe questionable to some in terms of good representation, then where does that leave Mizuki? Okay. Thank you so much for sticking with me until now. We have reviewed a lot of different games with different types of storytelling and different kinds of trans representation. I hope the beginning of the video opened your mind to the different kinds of representation and how they can be executed, and perchance you have started to see the strengths and weaknesses in both. And maybe you've already come to your own conclusion on which type of rep is better. If you have already, please let me know know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. It would be really cool to see if my conclusion adds to or challenges yours in any way, and vice versa. So let's do some pros and cons of each, shall we? So for the case of subtle representation, here are the pros. If you are subtle with depicting your trans characters, then you avoid the mistake of making the character all about being trans entirely. Being subtle lets you make their identity part of them, but not all of them. Yes, Mizuki is hiding a secret, and her gender identity weighs heavy on her, but most of the time we see Mizuki as a cute girl that sings extremely well and loves her friends to death. Another pro, showing trans people casually and subtly, like you would show a character with blonde hair or a straight character, further normalizes the already normal existence of trans people. Madeline is any other girl with her own woes, trepidations, and tribulations, climbing a damn mountain. That game pisses me off so bad. Nocturne is just a woman who misses Shadowheart and who loved Shart deeply, growing up in a cult together and trying to find the courage to leave it. But what about the cons? If you are subtle, then their identity can be easily dismissed, invalidated, or just straight up missed, like just not even finding that shit. If I didn't know from you guys, I don't know if I would have ever figured out that Madeline is a trans woman, given the circumstances of her creator and her development. Not that I'm faulting Maddie Thorson at all, I just don't think I would have ever found out. It is not explicitly stated in Project Sekai, which gives some transphobes the option to just completely dismiss Mizuki as just a crossdresser and other hurtful words I will not be saying. If you didn't follow a specific series of events in BG3 with the right companions, you may never even meet Nocturne, let alone understand her identity. If you don't talk to her with Shadowheart, if you don't read the journals around her, maybe you don't know. Another con is that if it's too unclear, then the attempt at normalizing that we mentioned earlier as a pro will just simply not happen. If it's not too in your face about it, then it risks not being present at all, almost hiding the trans identity of the character, whether purposefully or not, which is a con of all three of our subtle examples. But what about the pros and cons of loud, overt trans depictions? Pros: can't be dismissed and cannot be missed, girl. Catalyst literally says, "I'm the grim trans witch your parents warned you about." You can't pull a, "oh, just a crossdresser" excuse on Catalyst, girl. She tells you straight up Tyler's identity is a part of the overall story of Tell Me Why, and the studio was very upfront with their process of writing him. Bridget straight up says, "I'm a girl." There's little room for an alternative understanding, even though people may find a way. These characters simply cannot be missed in their games, and they can't be dismissed either. Maybe you can miss Bridget more than the others given it's a fighting game, but okay, you know what I mean. It's not like it's hidden. Another pro is that by being overt, it proudly normalizes trans stories and people in video games. Not being subtle about it kind of makes people really see them, and it leaves no room for not seeing them. But what about the cons? One con is that you run the risk of making the character all about being trans, many such cases. If you aren't a good writer, or you're not a good storyteller, then you might harp on all the drama of transitioning and none of the human aspect. As the article that I mentioned earlier said, how so many trans stories are focused so much on the hurt and not enough on the human aspect. I'm throwing the article back on screen because I literally forgot it and I didn't put it in the script right here. Please, thank you. And there's another con. As Dia Lucina critiqued, the story could come out as insecure, safe, and calculated to high heaven so as to avoid doing it wrong, which could leave the depiction feeling manufactured. You could come off as too in your face about it and may put the discussion of a character's trans identity where it isn't warranted. For example, many watched Catalyst's trailer and cringed, moaned, or groaned when she said transitioning. That was sort of hard. Some felt that that line kind of came out of nowhere and was kind of like shoot in, and it feels inauthentic and performative and only existing for brownie points. But what do I think? I wrote this video as a way to challenge my own thoughts or help form some underbaked ones. All of these examples tackle this topic so differently. It's hard to say what is good and bad. On one hand, I prefer the loud and overt types of stories. Like, don't hide the trans characters. Don't make me have to go looking for them. Just treat them like any other character. But that risks all of the cons I just said. But on the other hand, I love the subtle depictions, a piece of lore or character that only some people will catch and understand, but will mean everything to them. Many caught on to Madeline's identity before the creator even knew, which is a testament to the talent of Maddie Thorson. Creating a character so real and genuine that you find a part of yourself along the way, beautiful. Gay Times author Eli Cugney writes, Celeste authentically renders the experience of transness before it is understood as such. It gets at the feeling without naming it, which means that it can slip the bonds of how overwhelming, even cloying transness can sometimes feel when it is first named. The girls who know will know, and that's all that matters. But also, what about the trans individuals who don't know or haven't heard of a game like Celeste, but will run into Catalyst while playing one of the most popular shooters of all time? Catalyst can and has helped trans people so much, you know? Has she helped more or less than Celeste? Does it matter? I think in asking the question, which representation is better, the loud or the subtle quiet ones, we then have to ask another question, better for whom? I stop myself many a time when writing and pondering the script if I really meant better for cis people to be unmistakable and unmissable, for cis people to have to be exposed to people that are different from them. Maddie wrote in her Medium post that she thought it was great and awesome that cis people related to Madeline, because when they found out that they related to a trans woman this whole time, that maybe would make them go, maybe we aren't so different after all. But writing or planning with cis people's thoughts in mind shouldn't be a high priority, or a priority at all. We shouldn't have to be palatable to be accepted, because in almost every single game I wrote about and researched, I found trans game critics relating to Tyler and his sister's struggle. I found trans Redditors saying how happy Catalyst, Nocturne, and Bridget makes them. I've seen you guys rave and adore Madeline from Celeste and how seen she made you feel in the Google form you guys filled out. I saw TikToks under posts about Mizuki's fateful scene and how relatable and painful that scene was for some of them. It seemed like everywhere I turned, when the trans character was shown or hinted at with respect, I found trans joy. Now, of course, some trans people are not gonna with some or any of these characters or depictions, and some may have reservations by how the story was told in each case. But I found critiques and praises no matter which game I researched, whether it was overt, obvious representation or subtle, or maybe even hidden. I mean, this article here talks about how important Nocturne is in video games to the trans community. And as I said earlier, you could easily miss her, and Nocturne's representation, though relatively hidden, meant so much to people. So again, we ask the question, which type of representation is better? Being loud and proud or being quiet and subtle? What is the answer? The answer is more. That's it. The answer is more. I tricked you guys. We never deal in black and white here on this channel. It's never this or that, good or bad on this channel. Nope. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. This answer that I've come to is very similar to the conclusion that I came to at the end of my video on messy queer representation, where you could watch right here. We just need more stories. The answer is just make it, okay? We need more trans stories by trans people. We need more trans characters. We need cis people being good writers and doing good research in order to tell maybe a trans trans story. I don't believe that trans people should be the only ones making trans stories. I think that cis people can. They just have to be good writers. There's no excuse being at writing a trans character. Writers do in-depth research on how it feels when you're bleeding out on the ground, even though they've never experienced bleeding out on the ground. You can do some more research on portraying a trans character. There's no excuse. We just need more trans characters and more trans stories. There are strengths and weaknesses with both approaches, but at the end of the day, I just want more. And I want trans people being seen as just that, as people. I want to see trans people existing and continuing to exist despite it all. So we just need more. Loud, subtle, soft, thunderous. We just need more. We need more in stories that move you to tears or to laughter or to damn near throwing your controller at the screen because you're on your 1254th death. I'm an adult. More trans people, please. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Get on it. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Get on it. But I want to ask you, what do you think, girl? Do you prefer one over the other? What are some trans stories or characters that you personally adore? And are you a writer? Are you a video game dev? Are you anything else in the creative field? And are you creating trans characters? I would love to know. And I would also love to know if any of these characters we talked about today in this video helped you personally with your identity journey or someone that you knew. I would personally love that. This video started out as like, here are some cool games with trans characters in there, but then it kind of started me pondering and I spiraled into this. So there are a lot of other games with really awesome trans characters. Definitely list some in the comments down below. I could not get to all of them. These are the 6 that I chose. I hope that is okay. While you are down there telling me some of your tea, I am asking again, can you please click the like button? Ew. A single like goes a very long way, and please subscribe. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers. Girl, that would be insane. We talk about gay people, we talk about video games, and we talk about gay people in video games and fandom stuff and other things like that. So if you're interested and you want to see more, then subscribe. The next video coming out is talking about queer representation in indie video games. So if you are super interested in that, click the notification bell so you don't miss it. Check out this video that I made last year during Pride Month about popular queer representation in gaming and the gay button and all that stuff. So definitely go check that out. This is kind of a series I'm doing, so yes, that's all. If you would like to support me and the channel even more, then please consider becoming a member on the Ko-fi. Ko-fi.com/eissocial, where for just $5 a month, you'll be able to see videos like these super duper early and get a shout out at the end of every single video, plus some other perks as well. So without any further ado, take it away, future me, on thanking our beautiful coffee rats. Ginormous thank you to Alien Eyes, Jonah, Luandrill, Joanne, Moon, Blue X Crystal, Summers, Blue Ink Alchemist, Pauline, Shalami, Onyxide, Atticus, IAK, Pierre Burner, Selkable, Haley Robinson, Zendella, Bus Driver, Wokapi, Blurry, Klee, Pandus Bombus, Friendly Fire, Decals, Kiara, Tronilla, Moe, Zilfer, Luel, Tarek Dactyl, Alyssa Baum, Mystic Foxfire, Jessica C, The Potato Stuff, and an extra special thank you to Topa. Thank you so much for your guys' support and generosity. It means the world to this channel and just keeps us going. So thank you. If you'd like to connect more, then follow me on my socials. I am eissocial everywhere. I don't have a Twitter, but I do have a Blue Sky. We're going to be having a Pride celebration stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/eissocial. So definitely don't miss it. We're going to have a whole lot of fun and maybe play some of these games. I am not playing Celeste on stream though. I do not want to be humiliated. Thank you very much. Well, I believe that is it from me. So if I don't see you on Twitch, then I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye! Happy Pride! Happy Pride! Okay, continue. Bye!
Yeah, I can play Project Sekai. Check this out. Oh, God.